Hey church, I hope you're doing good. Today as we continue through 2 Corinthians, we're going to be in chapter 3. And this whole chapter is basically just Paul telling Corinth how great the message of Jesus really is, how powerful the hope that is found in this message is, and how bold and how confident we can be going forward in preaching this gospel to the world. I really want to hone in on verse 12, which says, "Since we have such a hope, we are very bold." It's very short, very to the point, but as I was reading that, I was just thinking about all the bad and all the crazy things that are going on in the world today, and all the terrible things that just seem to be getting worse day after day after day, and it never seems like there's ever going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a whole lot of people who have a whole lot of stuff to say about it, and there's a whole lot of people who have a whole lot of nothing to say about it. And I was just reminded that as Christians and as believers, we can't afford to be the people who say nothing, because the message that is found in this Bible, the message that we believe, is the greatest message that could ever be said to anyone anywhere on the planet. And I know there's a lot of fears about speaking up. For myself, there's a fear of speaking up and being wrong, being misinformed, or just messing up. For some people, there's a fear of speaking up and just being rejected and losing friends or losing influence, or people reacting to you negatively, or people confronting you about it. That's a real fear, and God sees you in those fears, and those are valid fears. But what I think Paul is telling the church in Corinth, and what I think God is telling us today, is that we can still, in the midst of those fears, be confident in this message, because this is not a message that we came up with. This is not a message that's ours. He says earlier in the chapter that God has made us already sufficient to be ministers for this gospel. God has made you good enough to go forth and proclaim this message. I could go forward and be the most awkward person on the planet and mess the whole thing up and just think I did a terrible job. But as long as I talk about this stuff, as long as I talk about the message that is found within these pages, it's still going to be powerful, because it's still God's message. And anything that comes from Him is powerful enough. So I think the message to us today is to not be a church that just sits idly by and watches from the sidelines and says nothing at all, but goes forward and implements change and reveals the truth that can change lives, because this stuff is too good not to share. And this stuff can not only stop the terrible things that are happening in the world today, but it can prevent these things from ever happening again. And I believe that, and I hope you do too. So let's be a church that goes forward and changes things. Can't wait to see you all on Sunday.